No sooner had he begun to speak when the opposition members started shouting slogans. What do you think? Where do you think the error is? I had shared a very simple tip. We are familiar with the expressions that start with no sooner. I had shared a tip, very silly tip, but it helps me remember. Right? I always say I keep in mind Tamil Nadu and WH questions. Right? So N is for no sooner and T is for then. Right? W is for when, yes, and H is for hardly. So whenever I have a sentence starting with hardly, then I will use when. Whenever I have a sentence starting with no sooner, then I will use then. Which means here the error is in part C. I replace when with then. That's it. Right? This is the tip. I don't know if anybody remembers. This was, I think, in one of my free sessions I took, which is even available on YouTube. I don't know if you were part of that session or if you remember the tip, but this is how it helps me remember, because I always get confused. Yeah. So error is in part C, and that's it. I'm sure you understand this construction, right? No sooner than. These are all pertaining to correlative conjunctions. I'll just add another example sentence other than what we have. No sooner had we heard the noise than we rushed to the spot. Right, just to put another context in place. Being that Punjab has a food surplus, it is hard to see why anyone in the state should sleep hungry. So understand what the context meaning is, and then you will be in a better position to identify which part has the error. I thought this was an easy one, and I was expecting answers quickly. So basically, I need a word that brings in the meaning of reason, right? Which means, where do you think the error is? Punjab has a food surplus. If Punjab has a food surplus, then it just doesn't make sense that people are still hungry in that state, right? So there's some sort of a cause element here, a reason element here, and that is not clearly brought out in this context with this expression being that, right? The error is in part A. All I need to do is change or replace being that with, can you think of a word? What can I replace being that with to bring in the meaning that the context is saying is, it's giving me a reason, because, right? So another word for because is since. Since Punjab has a food surplus, it is hard to see why anyone in the state should sleep hungry, right? You replace being that with since. It just doesn't make sense. Since Punjab has a food surplus, it is hard to see why anyone in the state should sleep hungry. So being that is not the right phrase here. The error is in part A. I need a word that brings in the meaning of cause or reason or because. Although winter in Kashmir is cold, but it is pleasant in many ways. Your 15 seconds are running. Okay, so very simple, right? I can't have two words bringing in the same contradictory meaning in the context. I already have although, which itself is contradiction in meaning, right? Which means, yes, the error is in part C, and you need to delete but. Now, let's put yet instead of but. I have a problem with that also. I'll tell you why. Okay, I was hoping one of you would say this, but I don't agree with that at all. In fact, I feel it is again an incorrect construction if I put yet also, because yet also has a slightly contradictory meaning, right? Which becomes superfluous in nature for me. So what I will do is, the error is in part C, no doubt, and I will delete but, absolutely, but I will not replace but with yet. Why so? When a sentence begins with although or though, it is ideal for you not to use but or yet to introduce the main clause. For example, let me say, although Raj was late, yet he stopped to buy a sandwich. I'm saying, hey, let's replace but with yet. But I'm saying incorrect usage. The correct usage would be, although Raj was late, he stopped to buy a sandwich. Like I said, for me, yet again is bringing in a contradictory when although is covering that meaning already, right? I don't need yet at all. Although Raj was late, he stopped to buy a sandwich. This is the right construction. Although he was English, he spoke fluent French. Correct. I don't need to introduce yet in the second clause. Okay. But another question is, can yet and although come in a sentence together? Yes, it can. Huh? You just said it can't come. Now you're saying it can come. I'll tell you how it will come. Okay. Let me give you an exception. I'm gonna erase all of this quickly. So I can say, although he's got a good job now, he hasn't complained yet. So I have although in the context, but yet here is not giving me the contradictory meaning, right? It is acting like an adverb, giving me the meaning of so far, right? So he's got a good job. Although he's got a good job now, he hasn't complained yet, meaning you never know when he'll complain. Not yet, it hasn't happened. So far, everything is good. He hasn't complained yet. So yet here is acting like an adverb modifying the action word complaint. In that sense, yes, I can have although and yet in the same context. But if it is giving me the same contradictory meaning, then I cannot have although and yet in the context. Right? I would rather say, although he's got a good job now, slightly modifying this context, he complains. Right? This is correct, but I can't say, although he's got a good job now, yet he complains. This is incorrect. Are you following? Although he's got a good job now, yet he complains, incorrect. Why? Because although and yet is giving me the same contradictory meaning. Superfluous in nature, I don't need this. That's why I'm removing yet here. Although he's got a good job now, he complains. Which means, although is giving me that contradictory meaning already, I don't need a yet. That's exactly what our context is saying. I'll remove the but and I will not replace it with yet. Because although covers it. Right? Although it is very expensive to afford, that entire sentence is, not phrased correctly. Let me rephrase it. Although it is very expensive, she afforded it. Right? Although it is very expensive, she afforded it. That makes sense. You can't say, although it is very expensive, oh, yet she can afford it. No, that is exactly my point. You don't need that yet there. Because it is not acting like an adverb, it is still giving me a contradictory meaning. It is unnecessary. Although it is expensive, and to afford after expensive is redundant, no? When you say something is expensive, and the second clause is saying that she can't afford it, why are you saying to afford again in the first clause? So remove that whole thing. Just say, although it is very expensive, she afforded it. That makes sense. So although it is very expensive, she afforded it. It completes meaning. There is no redundancy. Yeah. All good. Sarita was popular with her classmates that she always had someone or the other coming to her house. Sarita was popular with her classmates that she always had someone or the other coming to her house. Do you think there is an error in this context? What do you guys think? Okay. So let's look at it. I haven't received any response for this one. Seems like it's slightly, okay, Mamta says part A. So what do you think we have to change here, Mamta? Yeah, basically, this again is a subordinating conjunction, right? Have you heard of the expression so that? Right? Always bringing in a cause and effect relationship. Yes. So that's exactly what we need here. The error is in part A. She was so popular with her classmates that she always had someone or the other coming to her cause, right? So the effect is she had someone or the other coming to her house. Why? The reason is because she was so popular, right? So the effect is this one, someone or the other kept coming to her house. The reason is She was so popular. That's so popular. That's why this expression brings in that cause and effect relationship, right? Let's look at some more example sentences. He is so proud that he will not ask for help. Effect, he will not ask for help. Why? Because he is so proud. So that. Yeah, just some random examples for you to understand this construction. He cannot survive. Effect, why? Because he is so weak. Right? So that. Got it? You must be very particular in attending classes lest you will fall short in attendance percentage. You must be very particular in attending classes lest you will fall short in attendance percentage. This is your question. Your 15 seconds are running. Where do you think the error is? So, just for you to understand, in case you don't know what the meaning of this word lest is. Lest here means so as to prevent any possibility that, right? Fearing that something might happen. So, prevent any possibility that here, the any possibility here is that you will fall short in your attendance percentage. But the construction wise, when you have lest, usually you don't have will following. Okay, the modal will is incorrect in terms of construction. The error is in part C, right? Usually lest is followed by should. For example, I can say, I was afraid to open the door lest he should follow me, right? In case he decides to follow me, in case he thinks it is the right thing to do to follow me, I didn't want to get into that situation. To prevent that situation, to prevent the possibility of him following me, right, I was afraid to open the door. So here, the error is in part C, I need to delete will. I can either add should or I can leave it as it is. So I can just say, you must be very particular in attending classes lest you fall short in attendance percentage. Yeah, you can think of your own context with respect to lest as long as you're able to provide this particular meaning. Right, just to give you other examples where it doesn't have to follow, should doesn't have to follow, right? I can also say Raj fled the country lest he be captured and imprisoned, right? There's no should here. So usually I can drop the should, right, when I have lest, or I can use a should. But when I use a should, it's more of, expressing fear in case. That's the meaning it brings in. Anyway, so far, we've touched on 4 error types, right? Articles, word class, pronouns, and this was more to do with conjunctions, but more of correlative conjunctions. No sooner than, hardly when, so, subordinating conjunctions, so that, right? And understanding context and saying, okay, if there's a reason meaning, then am I using the right conjunctions like because and since and as, which is required in the context. So conjunctions is what we looked at. Yeah.